Laimhart le Rory, Radio Rira.
Radio Rira.
Díomh is mis Rory agus fáilte go Laimhart. An bodcréile seo dheoidh tú na PC éasfar an glóir Laimhart Radio Rira, chumá le rudí spéisiúla nach bhuithí tú áit be eile. Éiste seachlum Laimhart Radio Rira, agus cuinisúil an bodcréile de agalah, cluichí agus play.
Radio Rira.
Hello from my bedroom. This is my first ever solo podcast episode on Laimhart, and it definitely feels a bit weird having to do this on my own for the first time. I'm used to being in the studio or recording with someone, but seeing as the way things are these days where we have to stay at home to look out for each other, I thought I may as well start recording myself and start off with something that I'm really excited about, which is that Lipa just released her second album, Future Nostalgia, yesterday on Friday the 27th of March. And it's so good. I got to hear it a few days early, which I was really happy about. I got it in my inbox on Tuesday night. So I've had the best part of a week to be kind of mulling over it and thinking about it and analysing it. And I did a quick review on my Instagram on Wednesday morning. But I thought, I should do a more detailed, add some stats, some facts, and give a proper rating to the whole thing, track by track, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. So anyone that knows me knows I'm a huge Dua Lipa fan. I've been listening to her for the best part of 4 years. At this stage, I remember when Hotter Than Hell was just starting to get radio play back in 2016, and I didn't pay a huge amount of attention to her back then, but then one day I was listening to the radio and I heard a song that I loved. I thought it was great, so I Shazammed it and I found out that it was her song Blow Your Mind. So then I realised she was the same person who had Hotter Than Hell. I thought, I'm really impressed. I love this person and their music. I found out she was going to be in the Academy about 2 weeks later, and I really, really badly wanted to go. I had the money for a ticket, but I was 17. I was about a month off turning 18, and I had no way of getting an ID or even scabbing an ID, anything like that to go, so I was really disappointed. But I've managed to see her live twice in the meantime, and I'm going to be seeing her in the 3 Arena next January, which I'm super, super excited for. So this has been a huge step forward in terms of this album, because part of why I'm a big Dua Lipa fan is how she kind of won me over, because she had a few good singles beforehand, like Hotter Than Hell, like Blow Your Mind. She also had Lost in Your Light and Be The One, and she had her collabs like Scared to Be Lonely with Martin Garrix and No Lie with Sean Paul. But when the album was coming round, her self-titled debut, I was a bit skeptical, because I'm a big pop fan, so I've listened to lots of pop albums, and I know that there are lots of bad pop albums out there that have 1 or 2 good singles, maybe 1 or 2 other good songs, and then the rest of the album you can kind of throw in the bin, which is always disappointing. But when when her album came about, I kind of thought, you know what, take a chance, buy the album, go listen to it, get that CD. So I did, and I listened to it top to bottom, and I was so impressed, so blown away by it. I didn't expect it at all. So that's part of why I'm such a big fan now, is how she properly won me over with that album. And this time she's had a proper kind of album campaign, because for the first one, she had to keep kind of drip feed releasing singles, as it were, without an official album campaign, because she was establishing herself and growing an audience with every release. So she couldn't really put a massive proper plan in place, but she's managed to do it this time. She's managed to get a concept together, make a cohesive album and everything, and that's what we get with Future Nostalgia, which is out now. So I'm going to be doing a quick track by track review of the album, and I'll also give kind of a standout line from each song, and then I'll give a score out of 10 for each song, and then at the end I'm going to do an average score and give it as a percentage of the album as a whole. Starting with the first track, the title track, Future Nostalgia. She released this in mid-December as a promotional single, so it's not like a full-blown single with a campaign and pushing for radio play, blah 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 blah. It was just kind of a drip feed, keep people interested, give people more of a taste of the album. And I didn't really warm to it at the start. I thought it was kind of boring, but it really didn't take very long for it to win me over, and now I absolutely love it. She worked on this one with Jeff Basker, who has a very good record with songs like Jay-Z Run This Town, Kanye West Monster, Fun We Are Young, which won Grammy for the Song of the Year, Just Give Me a Reason by Pink, Locked Out of Heaven by Bruno Mars, Photographed by Ed Sheeran, and the massive song that I'm not even going to give the artist for because we all know Uptown Funk and how huge it was, one of the biggest songs of the decade. So this song sets the tone very well for the rest of the album because it's quite groovy, it's very throwbacky, it has a lot of kind of vintage sounds to it. She refers to American architect John Lautner in it, which is really funny. He kind of had his own new modern style of architecture during the Art Deco period, so this is like a metaphor for how she changed her sound and was going in a different direction for it. And the song just is a really good start and gives you an idea of the album, and it shows you what's coming. So the standout line out of that is, I know you ain't used to a female alpha, because there's lots of female empowerment lyrics in it. It may not be a straight up, you know, the main message of it might not be about, oh yeah, I'm a woman, this is great, like we can do all the same things. It might not be an outright female empowerment song from the start, but there's a lot of references thrown in there that are about female empowerment, and it's just done in a really fun, good way. So that one gets an 8 out of 10. Track number 2 is the lead single that we are all familiar with. It was released on the 1st of November last year, 2019, and that is Don't Start Now. So I remember about 10 days before she released it, she had deleted all her Instagram photos and she just put up a promo video for this song, and all I thought was, I remember I was in college, I was in the Mac Labs. If anyone goes to GCU and does media, you know those Mac Labs. And I just turned, there was a workshop on for a society, and I just turned straight away to my friend and said, look, there's something coming. Something is coming. The new album is on its way. And boy, was there a good single coming. She worked on this with Ian Kirkpatrick and Caroline Aylan, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Emily Warren, who were the team behind her massive smash New Rules. We all remember New Rules. We all know New Rules. We all know the rules as well. And Don't Start Now is like another breakup anthem, kind of like New Rules. New Rules is nearly kind of like how she's treating herself better after a breakup and building herself back up, and Don't Start Now is kind of talking about how she is back up there and how she's feeling great, and how, you know, as the chorus says, just don't show up, don't come out, don't start caring about me now. And it's just so catchy and it's so groovy, and there's a new sound to it. It has a very disco-y sound, and like Future Nostalgia, this track before it, it gave us an idea for what was coming, the nostalgia, especially as the first song on the album. It really showed us what was coming, and there's a huge mix of instruments in the production. There's bass guitar on the verse and the chorus, there's piano on the pre-chorus, and then there's strings later on. So between all this, there's no break in the song. You are dancing the whole way through. You are on that dance floor. You are not going to stop. And, you know, the song wasn't huge at the start. It did get attention because everyone knows who Dua Lipa is and all that. But it wasn't massive at the start. I mean, it didn't even hit number 1. It got to number 2 and was pipped to the post by, get ready for disappointment, Dance Monkey. Yeah, it got pipped to the post by Dance Monkey. But it has worked out better in the long run for Dua because it has had this longevity that has lasted months, and in a way it's better to be in the top 10 for months than to be in number 1 at the start and then kind of drop down eventually, because number 1 and then you drop down, you kind of have a big surge gets smaller and smaller, whereas if you're kind of floating around the top 10 and top 20 for months, it means that lots of people are listening to your song, they're streaming your song, they're buying your song very consistently every single week. So not only would that be better financially, but it also means your song is having a bigger impact because it's getting played so consistently. So that's been great for her. My standout line from that one would be the first line, which is did a full 180, which just sends something right through me every time I hear it on a night out, because I still hear it all the time on the radio, and I just love hearing it because it's also a reminder. It's like, you know, it tells you what song we're going to be listening to right now, and I love the song. So when I hear did a full 180, it puts a smile on my face. And it was the first line we heard off the album. It's clear, it's concise, and it sums up the song really well. So don't start now if it wasn't clear from that review. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. On to track number 3, which is called Cool. She worked on this with Tovlo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but most people would call her Tovlo. And she's a great singer, has great songs in her own right, but she's also written for other artists, which is really good. She's written for Years and Years, Zara Larsson, Girls Aloud, Lorde, and Ellie Goulding. She wrote the massive Love Me Like You Do for 50 Shades of Grey, which did really, really well. So they worked on this one together, and this song is really summery. It has these really nice synths at the start, which kind of follow the whole way through, and the whole thing builds up to a really, really groovy chorus. And there's like a breakdown after the chorus as well that just feels like a sunset with your friends when you're kind of lying out on the grass and it's warm, you have your sunglasses on and everything, and it just sounds beautiful. She also said that there's some Prince influence on it, and the whole thing is just very well written between the track and the lyrics. It sounds quite like the type of song that Dua Lipa would she'd hypothetically sing if she was cast in A Star Is Born, as if it's kind of her own version of Shallow and she put a Dua Lipa spin on it. Because it sounds like the type of thing you just want to belt out at your crush. It's exactly what you're feeling, it's what you want to say, you just want to say it to them and you want them to know it and you want them to feel the same way, but that's probably not always how it works with that, but sure, we'll get past that. The standout line from this one would be from the chorus, and it's never running out of juice when it's only me and you, because it's called Cool, and it talks about losing your cool with a certain person and how you just can't play cool no matter what happens, and it's brilliant. So that one also gets a 10 out of 10 for me. Track number 4 is Physical, which is the second single and was released on the 31st of January. She made this one with Jason Evigan, who's worked before on Jason Derulo Talk Dirty, Demi Lovato Heart Attack, and Maroon 5 What Lovers Do. So those are all quite big songs as far as I'm concerned. And the title of the song very clearly takes inspiration from Olivia Newton-John's single from the 80s, and we're all familiar with Olivia Newton-John Physical. And the chorus as well, the way she works the word physical into a hook, it's also referring to the song. So it's almost like an ode to it, and it's the first kind of proper show of direct nostalgic influence on the album. So it's the first, proper time that you feel like she's got an idea or paying homage to a song or music from the past and is bringing it to the present onto this album. She's described the whole album as being kind of like a dancer-size class, and now that I've listened to the full thing, I completely see where she's going with that. And I'd say this song is probably the best example of it because it's very fast-paced. It just makes you want to dance. That's really what it does. And as part of it, she made kind of a dancer-size class promo video, and she edited it to be like an 80s workout tape, and she was using Physical as the song, and she's your dance teacher, and it's very... Anyone in DCU who's watched the broadcast, it's basically like Get Flexi. That's it. That's exactly it summed up. And it's really fun to listen to, despite the fact that it's in a minor key, something that you don't really see very much in pop, especially for songs that aren't sad or negative in any way, which this song isn't at all. I wouldn't say it's completely happy, but it's not negative at all. It's quite positive. And that's what struck me immediately about it, is that it sounds like it should be sad, but it isn't at all. And there's a proper build up the whole way through. It's as much as it's high energy the whole way through, there's a proper build up, and the chorus is a proper like big climax. You just build your way up and it just explodes as the chorus comes, and you always want to sing kind of come on, let's get physical when it comes along, because it just gets stuck in your head after a few days. It took me a day or two to properly warm to Physical, but I love it now. And my standout line from that one is from the chorus, and it's baby keep on dancing like you ain't got a choice, because that's what happens anytime you listen to it. You cannot just sit still listening to this album, and most songs, to be honest, are like that, and that's the way I describe the album as a whole. So that one gets 8.5 out of 10. That's Physical. Track number 5 is Levitating. She wrote this one with Sarah Hudson, who has a very good track record. She's written Dark Horse by Katy Perry, Black Widow by Iggy Azalea. She's also written with Dua Lipa before. She wrote Genesis, which was the first track off of her first album. And she's also worked with others like Justin Bieber, Camila Cabello, Nicki Minaj, and Little Mix. And I've been following Sarah Hudson for a while in terms of the songs that she writes, and she always seems to have a banger. So Dua said that this was the first song that kind of showed her where the album was going. In a way, she wrote it and she was kind of like, okay, now I realise I want to make something nostalgic and groovy and dancey. And this song is quite, it is definitely very nostalgic, but it feels very modern as well. And I feel like a lot of YouTube videos are going to have it as its background music because it just works so well as background music, I think. And I heard it for the first time on Tuesday night when I was in the bathroom, because I was kind of going around the house as I was listening to it, and I was in the bathroom when this happened, and it was on quite loud, and with all the reflection and reverb off the walls of the bathroom, it was just impossible to not dance along to it. You're grooving along to it, and they've kind of 2 claps at the end of every line, and it's just so, you just cannot stay still. It really makes you want to dance, and you want to sing aloud to everything. The rhythm of the words is done very well. It's very Max Martin, and Max Martin, if you don't know who he is, you are absolutely familiar with his work. He's written some of the biggest songs in the charts of the last 20 years. He's Swedish, and I'm in the middle of writing a creative biography of him for college, yup DCU. But yeah, the rhythm of the words is quite Max Martin-y, and it's very wordy and fast paced in terms of how the lyrics come out in the verses, but then it's pulled back in the chorus and you get a chance to kind of focus on each line, and it's very happy as a song. You really get to appreciate every line in the chorus, and it just makes you smile anytime. And the last chorus, it starts off as a cappella before the track kicks in again, but the thing is, by that point the song has won you over so much that you're just waiting for the track to kick in again, that while it's kind of a cappella and all that, you're just like, come on, bring it back, come on, bring the track back. And once it kicks in, it's so sweet. This is one probably my favourite of the non-singles on the album so far, and the standout line is off the bridge, which is kind of rapped, and it just works really, really well as a bridge. And she says, my love is like a rocket, watch it blast off, and I'm feeling so electric, dance my arse off. And that's exactly what you would do listening to this song. So that song, Levitating, gets a 10 out of 10. Track number 6 is Pretty Please. She made this with Julia Michaels, who we're all familiar with. It's the most relaxed song on the album, but that's kind of balanced with lyrics that have zero chill about them. It talks about just being worried at the start of a relationship and nearly rushing too fast and all that. And the track builds up as the song goes on, and it kind of adds new songs with each verse and each chorus, and it brings it all the way back up. And it's made with almost exactly the same team as Don't Start Now and New Rules. She has Ian Kirkpatrick as producer again, and the bridge is just really groovy. It brings a cowbell in, and that's quite like it wasn't a cowbell, but I'm not sure what the noise is in Don't Start Now, but it kind of goes to on the chorus. It's like a cowbell. I don't know the name of it, but it's very groovy as the song goes on, and it's quite chill by comparison. My standout line would be, I said if we took it there, I wasn't going to change, because that's what the song is about. It's having zero chill. To be honest, I think it's probably the weakest song on the album. I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10, but I think it fits in well cohesively with the album, especially that you need a bit of a break after all the energy of Levitating, and you need to prepare yourself for the energy that's going to come in the next track, which is Hallucinate. Track number 7, as I said, which is called Hallucinate, she made with one of my absolute favourite DJs, SG Lewis. So I was absolutely pumped when I heard that he was on the album as a writer and a producer. He does make a lot of kind of chill synth songs, but he's an absolute master at making kind of disco, party club vibes in a way that just is not boring at all, because there's lots of DJs out there that just make club tracks and they're grand, but there's nothing special about them. SG Lewis is able to be very creative and make stuff that isn't boring at all. And as much as I've seen him in concert and all before, which was great and I loved it and all, I was most impressed by his DJ set at Beatyard last summer, which is a festival here in Dublin every August, because he was just playing kind of banger after banger after banger, a few of his own songs, but it was mostly other songs, and it was just the way that he was able to keep the crowd dancing the whole way through without playing proper too much like house or techno or kind of what you'd expect from a DJ set. So that was just brilliant. So this song is pure noughties disco dance. It'd fit right in on top of the pops back in the day. It's just so nostalgic back to that decade. It's brilliant. This song, it just like absolutely belongs on the dance floor, and it will be on my playlist for a long time, because every time I listen to it, I always have to turn the volume up when the chorus comes around. I might turn it down during the verse, but I instinctively turn it back up when the chorus comes on, because it's impossible to not blast that chorus. And there's a lot of like stuttering and sustained notes in terms of the melody and the lyrics in the chorus, because that adds to the whole idea of hallucinating, and it gives a great visual for what's built up in the bridge. Not the bridge, in the verses where she talks about hallucinating, but that properly is paid off in the chorus with the way it's been built. And I know I've said this about a few songs already, but this one is probably the best example of how there's not a single way to enjoy this song. If you're sitting down or standing still, or worst of all, sitting still, because you have to get up and you have to dance your ass off to this song. It's going to be in the clubs. It's going to be on my radio playlist a lot of times. So if you don't like this song, you might want to avoid me for the next while, because I will not stop playing it. The standout line is, "I'ma love you like a fool, breathe you in till I hallucinate," off of the verse. And I'd give that a solid 10 out of 10. It's absolutely brilliant. Track number 8 is Love Again. So this one is quite different to the rest of the album. It's quite string based in terms of the instrumentation, and she wrote it while she was going through a breakup, and she was feeling bad, but she was kind of hopeful that she'd find love again. So it's not written from kind of present tense experience. She's talking about how she hopes she can feel in a while, and that's kind of almost therapeutic in how she wrote it. So that feels quite good, and it's a bit stripped back compared to other songs in that you're not, dancing your ass off the whole time, but it still, feels like there's something there. There's a string motif in the background which samples Your Woman by Whitetown, and it was released in 1997, and it feels quite like a Motown ballad the way it's sung. So that's, again, the nostalgia element coming in to the album, and it keeps the whole album cohesive. There's so many nostalgic influences on this album the whole way through, and this is just another example of it. And it has a nice really nice string outro to it after the last chorus, and the standout line from that one would be, "Show me that heaven's right here." So that's what she's hoping someone will say to her eventually, and that she'll fall in love again. And that one gets a 7 out of 10. Track number 9 is Break My Heart, which is the third and most recent single as I'm recording this, which she released 2 days before the album's release. She released it on the Wednesday. And this one samples INXS Need You Tonight, which is a classic from 1987. If you don't know the name of that song, or you don't recognise it, go play it on Spotify now. The band is called INXS, those 4 letters, and just listen to the song, you'll know it straight away. And it talks about falling in love with someone in a way, or kind of starting to fall for someone, but you're getting worried that it's all going to go wrong despite the fact that nothing has happened. And it's like this inner monologue going through her head as she's falling for someone. And she also released the video for it on Wednesday or early Thursday, and that's very good, and it's so visually pleasing as far as music videos go. We see Dua, and she's going between all these different locations, and it's almost like she's imagining all the places where she could be with her partner, and that kind of things could go wrong, or she could, her heart could get broken there, as the title would suggest. But it's quite groovy as far as, the songs go. It's a little bit slower than some of the other dance songs on the album, but it is very cohesive with the album, and you still do want to dance with it. The standout line from that one would be, "I should have stayed at home because I was doing better alone." And it's sung in such a way that it feels more like just a playful, oops, I was at home, but oops, now I'm here with you, having a good time. That one gets an 8 out of 10. Getting near the end of the album now, track number 10 is called Good in Bed. The title says it all. This starts with a piano and a bass guitar, and it sets up what feels like an ode to Lily Allen. Just the whole song nearly feels like it's celebrating Lily Allen, who had her own sound back in the mid-noughties. And there's just loads of metaphors and double entendres in the lyrics, because it sounds quite innocent on a surface level most of the time, but it doesn't take any rocket science to figure out what she's actually talking about. And that would be very Lily Allen. Sometimes she's very clear, but other times she has all these cheeky little metaphors wrapped up in the lyrics. And I actually burst out laughing at some of the lines because of how it's so tongue-in-cheek. There's only one point of the song where she directly refers to sex and then drops an expletive, but the rest of it is kept very fun. And the melodies are almost like a nursery rhyme in how it would be done, in that it's very silly and stuff like that, because when you kind of listen to it a few times you have fun, but then when you kind of read the lyrics you realise it's about a couple where the sex is the only thing keeping them together and everything else is bad. And it almost feels like Not Fair by Lily Allen, where, well, you know, if you've listened to that song you know exactly what it's about. And it doesn't take a lot of rocket science to figure that one out either. But that's what it's about, and it's just a really, really fun song, and it has a good chirpy vibe to it. The standout line, which made me laugh, was, "I dedicate this verse to all that good pipe in the moonlight." I'm going to let you figure that one out for yourself. That one gets a 9 out of 10. And then the album closer, track number 11, is called Boys Will Be Boys. So this gives the album a bit more of a serious finish. All the songs were kind of feel good and everything, but this one is more about starting a conversation, and there's a bit more of a message to it than other ones. So it talks about kind of growing pains and double standards and sexism about growing up as a woman, which is something that I will never understand. All I can do is try to sympathise. I won't be able to empathise. All I can do is sympathise, and you know, we can be a better example and support the women around us. There's plucked strings in the background, which just works perfectly for the lyrics and the way that the song works, and it gives all this imagery of things that women are kind of forced to do as they grow up, such as like putting keys between their knuckles as they're walking home, or this idea of rushing home before sundown to avoid being out after dark because they're just scared of that 3-minute walk from the bus stop to their own house, which is, to be honest, it's awful, and it's something that men don't really have to deal with, especially, you know, they don't have to deal with it in the same way. So that's why this song is quite important to be on the album, and the chorus delivers the brilliant line, "Boys will be boys, but girls will be women." And there's nearly two meanings to it. One in how girls are forced to grow up faster than boys, and it's also how girls will kind of in general know better on average, because of how boys and men are conditioned to act kind of silly or childishly in the way that they do, and they haven't been told otherwise. So there's two meanings to it there. And the bridge also says, "If you're offended by this song, you're clearly doing something wrong." So that's, I really like that she put that in, because it talks about, you know, she knows people are going to be offended by the song, and there's always people who are offended by songs like this, but she throws in that note which nearly stops the person in their tracks before they can even properly start to vocalize their offense. The standout line from this one, I'd say there's no line, it's the entire second verse, which is, "I'm sure if there's something that I can't find the words to say, I know that there will be a man around to save the day. And that was sarcasm in case you needed it mansplained. I should have stuck to ballet." And that's just brilliant. She just goes there. That's brilliant. And that was the last song, and that gets a 9 out of 10. At the end of it all, my first note and the main note of the whole album is just get ready to dance and to not stop dancing. That's all you're going to want to do for the majority of the album. It's very feel good, and it's what we need right now. And once kind of this social distancing ends, this album will be on lots of party playlists, which is exactly where it belongs. I know we can't really party right now. We're kind of stuck at home, which kind of sucks, to be honest, a bit. I'm having a good time. I'm kind of setting myself up, and I'm working from home. I'm getting my stuff together. But I do wish I could go out and do other stuff at other points, but I'm getting more patient as the days go on. I'm keeping in touch with my friends as much as I can. And if you're kind of stuck for things to do at home, the podcast episode before this, which I did live on IGTV, on Instagram Live with my friend Pauline Nagagi, we talked all things that you can do at home during this self-isolation. So go give that a listen if you want a few ideas, because we had so much fun on Instagram Live doing it, and we had about 60 people watching, which was really good. They were interacting, they were sending us suggestions and stuff like that. So that was really good, and it's just a load of good ideas. Back to the album, this takes you through so many decades, from the 70s, the 60s, all the way up to the noughties, and it feels like a very modern take on those times and the music that was around back then, but that it's been made fresh for now. My final score, which is based on the individual songs, is 88%, which is a very high score for an album in this day and age, to be honest. And yes, I'm a big Dua Lipa fan, and I know lots of people would just say, oh yeah, but he's always talking about how he's a fan of Dua Lipa, so he's just going to give it a great score anyway. I know I'm a big Dua Lipa fan, but if the album wasn't good, I would have no qualms in giving it constructive criticism, and I would not give these scores without reason, because, you know, it completely surpassed my expectations as albums, and I've listened to lots of bad pop albums in my time, and this isn't one. So if you need to pick me up or something good right now, go get it on Spotify, go download it on iTunes, get the CD, whatever format or way you want, because this album is going to make you dance and feel good.